Hi, class. Hi. I thought we would take just a few minutes to talk a little bit about Soldier's Home by Ernest Hemingway and the poem that followed it, or that I had you read, which was My Sweet Old Etc. by Cummings. Both of these stories are really about people who are either at war or coming back from war and who seem to be having trouble adjusting to how the war has affected them. Hemingway's story, Soldier's Home, basically deals with our character Krebs, who thinks life is too complicated, seems to be depressed, doesn't have much desire to really get out into the world and move on since he's come back from the war. The end of the story, I think, with the mother is probably the most important scene in the story, because it seems to suggest that not only is he depressed, but he's lost his faith. When his mother asks him to pray, he cannot pray. He seems really, just not to care at all about moving on with life. He always says throughout the story that it's just too complicated. I think the story is in the setting section of the book because Krebs seems like the kind of guy that would have everything going for him. He's from small town Oklahoma. He has people praying for him. He has a supportive family who loves him. And yet he just cannot get over these devastating events that the war has, done to him. It's just really caused him to have emotional issues. I'm sure, seeing the death and the destruction, and it says he was frightened the whole time he was there. And Hemingway often wrote about characters who struggled to deal with the war. His generation of men went away to World War I, World War II, and often it changed them, and it changed the way they looked at things. And then the poem, My Sweet Old Etc., it's kind of the same. We have a narrator who is apparently laying there in the mud. Some people say that he's in a trench fighting the war. Other people say maybe that mud that he's laying in is his grave, and this is coming from beyond the grave, him talking from beyond the grave. Maybe he's dead. But it seems to suggest that, the mother and the father want him to die bravely, or the father even says that it was a privilege to fight in the war, and his great aunt, Lucy, I think was her name, she knows that this is a great cause that they're fighting for. And really, I think the narrator in the poem probably doesn't think it's a privilege to be fighting in a war, and probably doesn't really know why they're fighting. And he seems to be laying there just thinking about this girl and about being home. And it seems to be pretty much a sad poem where the narrator is not happy to be at war. And of course, it's always the old men who get us into these wars and the young boys, like our narrator in this poem, that have to go and fight them. So hopefully you can see how these stories are somewhat related. I think setting is so important to Soldier's Home, because if Krebs can't make it in the small town where he has all of this support and love and people praying for him, how can you expect other soldiers who come back from war, who don't have these same support structures in place, to make it and to live, meaningful lives after they've been affected by something like this? I definitely think Hemingway is trying to say we have to get these soldiers help, or maybe it would be best if we just didn't go to war in the first place. I hope this helps with these stories. I hope you have a good week.